In the mid to late 90s, Superbike racing's popularity had been growing in leaps and bounds. The manufacturers, Honda, Suzuki, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Ducati, they were all fighting for the top spots in the podium. However, at that time, the bikes to beat were the 750cc inline fours. Kawasaki ZX7, GSXR 750. Those were the bikes. But somewhere around 1994, when Ducati debuted the 916, everything had changed. That bike, especially in World Superbike, had started to dominate. Honda took notice. They built the RC51 and eventually beat Ducati at their own game. Suzuki also took notice as well. However, they took notice a little too late. They built a bike that was in direct competition with the Ducati 916, the Honda RC51, called the TL1000R. That bike, sadly, had never really seen the track in any real race form. They never developed the motor for racing because the GSXR 1000 at that point was pretty much coming out and everybody was starting to look, and the inline fours were really starting to gain the popularity again, leaving Ducati in their own pretty much realm by themselves. Honda had abandoned the RC51 for the CBR 1000 RR. And again, Suzuki had the GSXR 1000. Kawasaki had eventually the ZX10. They were one of the last ones to go into the 1000cc domain. The 750 ZX7, that bike had been racing with one of the Bostrom brothers, Eric Bostrom, even well into the 1000 era, CC era. So with that said, the TL1000 is a bike that had been kind of forgotten, but still loved by many. The shape itself at that time was a little off. It was big and bulbous compared especially to the thin, svelte Ducati. But nowadays, when you look at these bikes and your eyes start to come across them, it puts a smile on your face. And today, one of the coolest things that we do at this shop is every once in a while you get something in that's just a little bit extra special. And what we are going to be looking at today is an extra special bike, the 2002 Suzuki TL1000R. Well, hello riders, it's Josh from CycleHunters.com. Yep, today we are looking at a very special bike and a very, very beautiful bike to begin with. This is the 2002 Suzuki TL1000R. This bike simply is a very, very niche bike in the sense that, like I had stated a little bit before, this is a V-twin. This is a twin-cylinder motorcycle from Suzuki at the time that they were kind of dominating Superbike with their GSXR 1000 that had just come out. So Suzuki didn't really have much use for this bike at that point because they found a formula to go out and be competitive against the likes of Ducati and the Honda RC51. So with this, what happened was they just left it as a street bike. They never developed the motor, but they didn't really need to because it was powerful enough. Now it's a 996cc twin, dual overhead cam motor. Puts out about, now they claim about 135 horses. Everybody else says roughly about 120 to 125 horsepower. Or 125, yeah, 120 to 125 horses. The torque is roughly 78 foot-pounds of torque. Now, you can see how beautifully well kept this bike is. I will say that these are aftermarket fairings, which there is the slightest bit of color difference. This is a little, just a hair darker than this one. And it's very difficult to tell, especially when you're standing back. But as far as this job goes on this bike, where they had redone the fairings, it looks pretty amazing. It looks really, really good. The fairings are nice and thick. They're not thin. You can see the upside down forks. These are the six-piston calipers, which really doesn't make much of a difference, but that was kind of the thing back in those days. You're looking at probably 40 miles per gallon. If you're ripping it, more like 30 miles per gallon. These bikes, they have a lot of power. Down low, that torque is something that you're going to love because you're coming out of a corner, you twist the throttle, it squirts you right out of the corner. And you're going to hear it bellowing out of the dual Yoshimura exhaust, the RS3, the stainless steel. This bike also has the speed cal, but it does come with the back seat. We do have that. Oh, the wheelbase on this bike makes it turn a little bit tighter. So it's about, what, 54.9, I think, inches for the wheelbase. And one of the things about this bike was the fact that it did turn really well. And that this thing, again, has a very race-focused, but it never made it to the track. They never really developed this bike to be the race bike that it was sort of designed to be in the first place. Now this bike redlines around 10,000, 11,000, where all the other twins, you know, they're making power up to about 6. The Honda maybe a little bit more, but you know, for a bike that had, for all intents purposes, a little bit higher revving motor than the Ducati, made a little bit more power. It's a shame that they never got a chance to put this against them to really see what this bike was capable of doing. The bike is extremely reliable. That's what you hear. The gearboxes, the motor. I mean, it's a Suzuki, so there's not much that you'll wind up dealing with in terms of reliability issues for many of these. These are always really good bikes. Pretty much any of the modern day bikes, you're not dealing with much for issues. Oh yeah, I mean, just that yellow is stunning. Gorgeous bike. So when we get into the controls, you will see that this is all analog. So there is nothing electronically controlled on this bike whatsoever, other than the fuel injection. Now, look at that dash. How pretty is that? Gorgeous. Mile per hour on the left, tach in the middle. You can see that it has a digital readout for your miles, 8,207 miles. So really not a whole lot of mileage for a 2002 model. Now you can see in there you have your temperature blinking, your check engine basically. You have your fuel injection light, and that's kind of it. You have your light tree on the right for high beam, low beam, neutral, and I would imagine a check engine if you needed to. Controls over here are high beam, low beam. You can see it up in there. See how that works. Your turn signal left. See that blinking there as well. Turn signal right. And then there's your horn. So the nice thing here is I don't have to start this bike in order to do any of the headlights. So we'll do that right away. So there's your large array. That's low, that's high beam. Low beam, high beam. This is right, left front, right front. This will be right rear. And will be left rear. Everything works. Cancel that, do the brakes. This is going to be foot brake. There's the foot, and we'll do handbrake. And slowly we get to this most incredible part where we fire this beautiful bike up and listen to the awesome sound of the twin. Now this also has the steering damper mounted up top. It's a really good steering damper actually. On the right, simple controls, on, off, and your starter. That's it. Now we are in neutral. So let's fire this baby up. Let's see what kind of smile we get. Oh, I do have to pull the clutch on this one. And I have to Give it a little bit of that. Oh yeah. Listen to that. Oh yeah. That is snappy. That's your cold start. So immediately you can feel that pumping. That's putting a smile on my face. It brings back the Ducati memories, that's for sure. And those Yoshi pipes sound awesome. Woo. Oh, it sounds so good. Yeah, so if that doesn't put a smile on your face when you're ready to go ride, I don't know what to tell you, but that definitely is going to do it for me. There's no doubt. That just sounds great. The throttle is very snappy. Again, this is that bike that is built to be a race bike, but it just wound up becoming an awesome street bike. So for anyone that's looking for more of that hardcore focus for a street bike, that wanted something a little bit special, a little bit more unique, a little different, the TL1000R is a perfect choice. Just look at how beautiful this thing looks. Gorgeous bike. Now, what we do is every one of our bikes gets a 48-point check. So oil filter, basic things that we're checking to make sure that when you get a bike from us, it's always putting its best foot forward. And this one is not really that difficult because it came to us really clean, really well maintained. So again, oil filters, basic stuff, check the charging system, anything that we can do to make sure that when you get it, it's as good as we can make it. It's as close as we can make it to a newer bike, which this one is not really, that's not far. Although the mileage might say 8,000. Doesn't look like it. Here's your battery tender lead that we put on every bike so that when you're done riding for the day, you just go in and plug it in there, and it pumps up that battery for you so that when you go to thumb the starter, it's hitting hard. The wheels on this, I mean, look how unbelievably clean those are. You know, it's like there's really no blemishes whatsoever that I could tell on any of those wheels. They just look stunning. Everything on this bike does look really, really stunning. You know, there's little tiny issues like maybe that doesn't match up quite perfectly with this. But, I mean, if you want to nitpick, be my guest. But the reality is you probably don't find these in that kind of condition very much unless they're in somebody's private collection. And they may not ride them very often. I know I probably wouldn't, especially if it's a bad looking, you know, rainy type of a day. So if you are digging the 2002 Suzuki TL1000R, give us a call at 717-273-1809. Now you can see our full list of our current inventory at www.cyclehunters.com. You can email us at cyclehunters@gmail.com. Like and subscribe. We really appreciate everything that all you guys have been doing throughout the year. Commenting, just being a part of it. And hey, we also have some financing options available. We do have aftermarket warranties available. It really just comes down to what is it that we need to do so that you can have a gorgeous bike like that sitting in your garage, ready and waiting when you want to go ride. Well, until the next bike, happy riding.